Welcome to the Itihasa channel. The last time we spoke about the story that Rangaparna told Arjuna and the Pandavas, the story of the wonderful Tapati, the daughter of Suryadeva himself, who married the great king of Bhuloka, the great king of Bharat Varsha, Samvarana. And they both had a child called Kuru, who later became a great emperor of his own right and from whom the great Kuru dynasty evolved, who was the ancestor of the Pandavas, and hence he called the Pandavas Tapatyas. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Nagendraya Namaha. Om Amme Narayana. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Anjanaya Namaha. Om Kartikaya Namaha. Swami Sharnamayappo. Om Kurve Namaha. And in the course of this great story that Angaraparna told the Pandavas, he spoke about the great Brahmarishi Vasishta. The great Brahmarishi Vasishta, who was the teacher of the Kulguru of Samvarana, who was the one who had gone to Devaloka, met Suryadeva himself and had brought Suryadeva's daughter Thapati down for the marriage between her and Samvarna. And his curiosity aroused, Arjuna asked Angaraparna, tell us more about Vasishta. And we have heard about the great rivalry that Vishwamitra and Vasishta had with each other. Tell us about that rivalry. And so Angaraparna started to talk about the story of the great Brahmarishi Vasishta, the mind-born son of Brahma, who had immense powers by the power of his knowledge of the Brahman, the conscious knowledge that he had achieved at the feet of the great Adi Yogi Shiva himself. And this is the story of the great Vasishta. So Vasishta was a great Brahmarishi who was the Kulguru for Samvarna. Instantly, he was also the Kulguru of the Ikshvaku clan, the great Ikshvaku clan from whom the great Purushottama Rama evolved. And this great Vasishta had his ashram on the mountain, Meru mountain. And one day, as he was doing penance on the mountain in his ashrama, there came the great king Kaushika. Kaushika was the son of the great king Gadi, who himself was a son of Kushika. And so Kaushika got his name from the great king Kushika. And hence he was called Kaushika. And this great king Kaushika, the king who brought terror to his enemies, a vanquisher of his foe, and the king who seemingly had dharma on his side. As he ranged through the great mountain of Meru, he came across this wonderful ashram of Vasishta, an idyllic place almost like paradise. Flowers, trees, beautiful meadows, birds and bees singing and dancing all over, and wonderful beasts moving fluidly around his ashram. And this entire army of Kaushika came there famished, tired, and thirsty. And when Vasishta saw them, he gave them a wonderful smile. He told them to go and freshen themselves in the beautiful streams nearby. When they came back, they would have a feast ready for them. And lo and behold, when Kaushika and his wonderful large army came back into the ashram of Vasishta, having freshened them up in the nearby stream, there was a veritable feast laid out in front of them. It was a feast that played on their six tastes being food, ambrosia of the most marvelous kind, which would be only available in Devaloka. There were ornaments, there were raiments, clothes, there were precious gemstones, and there was beautiful, clear water to drink. And all this laid down in front of the king. The type of ornaments and jewels and raiments that would even make the eyes of the king, which is used to such luxuries, glitter in passion, glitter with ecstasy. And food that was tasty beyond compare, a type of food and drink that he had never ever encountered in the past, and the ambrosia of the gods themselves. And then Kaushika turned to Vasishta and asked, You have but a simple ashram on this mountain, with no means of supply of this wonderful delicacies. How then did you come to give us this ultimate feast? A feast that plays on all six tastes of ours: food, water, drink, wine, jewels, ornaments, and beautiful clothes. And then Vasishta gestured to his beautiful divine cow Nandini. And Nandini was a cow of remarkable pedigree. Her mother was Kamadhenu, the cow that came out from the churning of the oceans during the Samudra Manthana. This was the cow that the Vasu brothers had kidnapped and taken away, which made them be born on earth, one of them being Bhishma. And this beautiful cow Nandini was of that great pedigree. Nandini was standing there on the side, proud and looking adoringly at her master Vasishta. She was a beautiful white cow with six long legs, white shiny flanks, udders and teeth that were full and high, a head held high, ears perked up, horns beautifully carved, and eyes bulging out in absolute beauty. And looking at her, the king Kaushika asked Vasishta, "Pray tell me, how did this wonderful cow give out this large feast?" And Vasishta said, "This is the cow of the gods themselves. I use this cow to give obeisance to my pitras, to pay respects to the devas, to pay respects to Indra when he comes. And this cow is capable of bringing out all kinds of jewels of the world." And naturally, this great Kshatriya Kaushika, who was given to baser pleasures, immediately had to have this wonderful cow. He made an offer to Vasishta. He told Vasishta, "I will give you incomparable gold and diamonds and jewels. I'll give you thousands of milch cows that you can use for your homas and for pleasing the gods when they come, and for also for paying respects to your pitras. I will give you servitors and servants innumerable in number who will do everything at your bidding. I will fill your granary, I will build large granaries and fill them to the brim so that you will not have anything wanting for the rest of your life. Give me this one cow, Nandini." And Vasishta smilingly refused. He said, "No, this cow is dearer to me than my child herself. For I treat her like my very own child, and there is no way I can part with this cow. I cannot give this cow to you." And Kaushika got angry. He looked back at Vasishta and said, "You're a simple Brahmana who stays in the wild. You have no need for all the things that this cow gives. Then tell me, what will you do with all these ornaments, all these gemstones, all these silks that this cow brings forth from her udders? What use do you, a simple Brahmana, have for all this? Pray tell me what use you have, and if you have no use for it, give this cow to me. For if you do not, I shall take this cow by force." And this great Brahmarishi, who had given up his karma, who had given up his krodha, looked smilingly at the great King Kaushika and said, "I have no need for all the gifts that you present to me. Neither do I have need for all these wonderful gems that Nandini brings out. But for me, she is more than a daughter. I just need her milk for my pujas. I need the milk for my yagyas. I need the milk to satisfy Indra and the gods and my pitras. And for that, I need Nandini, and I shall not give her to you." And then this enraged Kaushika got angry and started to scream at Vasishta and said, "I will take her away by force." He ordered his army men to take this Nandini by the neck, put a noose around her neck, and yank her away. And these evil army men, uncouth men who had no idea of the finer aspects of nature, started to whip and hit this wonderful cow with the thick rope to subdue her, to get her to this wonderful divine cow Nandini, in absolute panic, started to sway her head from side to side, causing the noose that held her to move violently around, hurting and injuring the soldiers who held on to her. And then, having broken free from their grasp, she ran to her master Vasishta and pleaded and cried with tears streaming down her face. She nuzzled her head and on his lap and lovingly told him, "Look what these evil men have done to me. Look at my flanks. My flanks are bloodied from the blows that they have rained down with the noose that they held me by. My body is bloodied and marked from the various weapons that these evil soldiers have used on me. My body hurts. And yet you, O Brahmarishi, my father, say nothing to them? Not once would you raise your voice and tell them to bring me back? I know your powers and you have not used your powers to save me and to protect me. Pray tell me why. Do you want me to go away? Do you wish me to go with them?" And Vashishta put his hand tenderly on the head of this beautiful cow Nandini, spoke tenderly to her and said that I have given up Krodha, I have given up Kama, and it is not in my ability to fight back against this man. Yes, I know if I use my Brahma powers, I can easily quell him, but it is not right for me to do so, for I have given up all desires. And then Nandini looked up at her master and said, "Do you want me to go away? You just need to say the word once that you want me to stay, and I will do everything in my power to stay here." Then Vashishta looked lovingly at his cow and said, "If you can, please stay. Nothing would give me more pleasure." And hearing her master's words, "Stay, nothing would give me more pleasure if you stayed," Nandini transformed herself into something of terror. Her eyes became crimson red. It is said that from her urine a vast army of Pallavas spewed out. From her dung a vast army of Yavanas spewed out. And then from her breath and her tears and her sweat, huge armies started to take shape. It is said that these armies are described as being Sinhalas, Dravidas, Poundras, Mlechas, and the like. All names of various armies of southern Bharat Varsha. And these armies were men with arms that seemed unnatural, strength that seemed unnatural, weapons that seemed to be of another world, and these strange forces speaking a strange tongue dressed in strange formidable wear that would bring fear into the hearts of the enemy. Raising blood curdling screams, they pounced upon the soldiers of Kaushika, routing them in an instant and sending them fleeing for cover. And looking at this beautiful cow give forth wonderful armies, terrifying but wonderful armies, this great king Kaushika was absolutely awestruck. He looked back at this great Brahmarishi Vasishta and said, "All my powers of being a great Kshatriya are nothing in front of you, O Brahmarishi. You have routed my soldiers, you have routed my armies, which would lay waste to vast tracts of enemy territory. You have routed this vast fighting force." And Vashishta looked around and said, "It is not me who's done it. I have no intention to conquer you or your army, for I have given up all forms of krodha and kama. It is my dear cow Nandini who's done this, and she has done this just by the power of her thought. But look yonder, O great king, none of your men have actually died. They've just run away from fear, run away from terror, run away out of illusions that they have created in their own minds. Not one of them lays bleeding, and not one of them lays dead. My dear Nandini is a wonderful being, as peaceful as I am, not given to violence at all, and nothing she could do can bring forth blood or break skin. Look yonder, O great King Kaushika, not a single man of yours is wounded. And in awe, Kaushika looked around and realized that his men were all alive, but were running in fear and absolute fear. Fear that had gripped their mind from within, and they were not normal men from then on. And then that was when Kaushika realized, Kaushika, the son of the great king Gadi, the grandson of the great king Kushika, that's when Kaushika realized that all his powers and all his strength and all those Ashkawanis of armies that he possessed under his control were of no use in the face of this great Brahman. And so he decided that he has to be the end of this Brahmana. He could not take on this Brahmana with his mortal force. He had to gain the power of being a Brahmarishi himself. And so it was said that Kaushika sat down in extreme penance. He sat in penance that would not be possible for a normal man. It was said that when he sat and stood in penance for years together, the ground cracked under him. Heat emanated from him, and trees around him were scorched to the ground. And it was eventually that he, after having committed himself to years and years of extreme penance, that he was able to achieve the power of a Brahmarishi. A power of a Brahmarishi akin to what Vasishta had, or so he thought. And so it is said that after having achieved innumerable powers through tapasya, through intense tapasya, the great Vishwamitra, as he was now called, for he was a friend of the whole universe, that King Kaushika had transformed to Vishwamitra, the friend of the universe. And thereon Vishwamitra went and sat at the feet of the great Adi Yogi, sat at his feet for centuries together, imbibing from this great Adi Yogi the power of consciousness, the power of cosmos, the power that the Adi Yogi had harnessed from the cosmos. He imbibed all these powers from the great Adi Yogi and becoming as powerful as Vasishta. And for having become a Brahmarishi, Vishwamitra still harbored the two great sins, mainly Krodha, anger against Vasishta, and to a smaller extent, Matsarya, jealousy towards Vasishta. The only sin, the only evil that he could not conquer within himself was the evil of Krodha, the sin of Krodha. Krodha was the one thing Vishwamitra could not overpower. And in the story we shall discuss next time, we shall discuss about how that Krodha within Vishwamitra had come to the fore in the many instances where he lay waste to all the progeny of Om Namah Shivaya, Om Nagendra Namah. Om Amme Narayana, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Ganeshaya Namaha, Om Anjanaya Namaha, Om Subramanyaya Namaha, Swami Sharanamayapo, Om